Hi, welcome to Soul Music, the songs that saved us. This is episode 2, the next big full birth. And boy, what a birth it is. It's 90 minutes long. So if you commit to it, then thank you. We really appreciate you spending your time and your listening energy with us. If you've listened so far, then thank you. If you're not listening, then Izzy will put a hex on all your future bowls of noodles. That is obviously a joke. So, this is just a content warning prior to the episode starting. This episode deals with themes of suicide, self-harm and mental health, and we do delve into it in a pretty open way. So if that's something that you will find challenging and distressing, you may want to stop listening now. If you're carrying on listening and staying with us, then thank you, and I hope that you find something of value and maybe have a little light-hearted giggle along the way with us. Okay? So we'll speak to you next time. Enjoy, leave feedback, email, like, subscribe, and all of that jazz that content creators are supposed to say. Bye, guys.
You have my consent.
Thank you. I'm so honoured. Becky, lovely to see you.
Aw, it's lovely to see you too.
I talk to you every day, all day, most days.
All day?
Yes.
Most days?
It feels a little different when we do this recording for the podcast. I don't know why. I feel like I have to be more formal, which is weird. I'm not sure.
I'm showing up in a t-shirt. There's no formality with me. Hair's up, t-shirts on.
For those, oh God, I'm trying out a variety of mics, so I apologize to anyone listening to this. I'm on my second mic now, sort of set up of this, see whether this is better. But for those, if we don't put any of the visual up from this, can you describe for the listeners what my shirt is?
Okay, I may have mentioned when we jumped on that we have switched roles, that you look like the therapist and I look like the patient, and that's perfectly okay. And we have it totally looks like a NASA blouse that you are wearing.
No,
it is
NASA.
Beautiful. It's all, it has boom on it, I think.
Yeah.
We have rockets and stars and planets. It's beautiful. I think I see Saturn.
Saturn. Yeah, I think it's Sun, that one. It's my confidence shirt.
I love it. I'm wearing a St. Jude's t-shirt.
What's St. Jude the patron of? A podcast?
Well, it was from doing some kind of walkathon thing like a year ago.
I think we really need the patron saint of podcasts. There must be a patron saint of podcasts. If not, there should be one to help us out here. Right. Okay. It doesn't matter what we look like, because we want to be. We're not the Kardashians. I don't know why I chose to reference that. I don't even like the Kardashians. I was watching that OJ Simpson thing over the weekend on Netflix, so maybe that's why I'm referencing the Kardashians. But I don't care whether I look a mess or not. I don't care whether I cry on camera. I do care whether I cry on camera, actually. I bought a new webcam and a ring light, and as I talked to Becky just before we started recording, I look like I'm broadcasting from the surface of the sun. In the last hour, I have been through every single cycle of, what would you call it? Illumination? I don't know. You can make it brighter, you can make it darker, and I've cycled through it all, and it's either too dark or I look like I'm on the planet, on the sun, on the surface of the sun.
Well, I think you look lovely. So, yeah.
I mean, I look radioactive. My skin is glowing in a way it's never glown before.
I was going to say radiant, not radioactive.
I look like a ghost. I look so pale. Anyway, and that's not right, because I've been putting fake tan on for this. Not that I care about my appearance. I don't care about being a Kardashian or anything. So, but you know, we all have a little bit of narcissism, we all have a little bit of vanity, so that's fine. Anyway, welcome listeners to, and I've been told I shouldn't shout on this episode. I've got to keep because my voice tends to go up and down. It's quite expressive.
Who told you not to shout?
A family member.
What?
My voice is quite, I get it though. My voice is, when I was editing the recording of the first main episode, I could, you know, you can see the sound waves and I was like, shit, that's my voice. And it's like, whoa, big and small. So no, I'll try to keep myself more sort of one level and not shout, because I don't need to. The mic is right. The mic is right here. Anyway, okay. So welcome to everyone listening to this second full birth of soul music, the songs that saved us. I want to give a shout out to all 49 of you who've listened so far. As you might not be 49, because I think there's some repeat listens, and whoever out there is using...
I might be the first 42.
Well, I just want to shout out the stalkers who are using VPN to, like, Uganda. Uganda isn't listening to this podcast. Neither is Kazakhstan.
We're on to you, stalkers.
Yeah, we're on
to
to you,
you.
stalkers. So, but well done actually for using VPN, because it's the only sensible thing to do in this day and age of cybersecurity, etc. Anyway, yeah. So anyone who's listened up until now, thank you. I had some nice feedback from some other people who weren't my family and who were telling me that my voice is too shouty. And that was lovely to hear. We just want it to be natural. Obviously, we said this in the first episode. We just want it to be natural. We want it to reflect us, as well as hopefully being informative, educational, connecting with people on maybe hopefully an emotional level, offering some comfort and a little bit of, you know, a few giggles, I guess. Can you see my cat in the background?
Hold on, I gotta move my notes. Oh,
he's given up.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, yeah. He's turned his back to me because there's been so much shouting in the run up to doing this, because I was arguing with the tech again. He's like, I'm just gonna point away from you. You are a scary lady. We love you all for listening. We've got a new website. It is, and I wrote it down because I can't remember it, even though it's my website. It's www.thesongsthatsavedus.co.uk. Go there. Every link you could ever want is on the website. All our social medias, the links to the various streamings. It's on Castbox, it's on Apple, it's on Spotify. Loads of you hate Spotify. That's fine. Whatever. Listen to it through your web browser. It's on another one, which I can't even remember. And I think it might be on YouTube soon, because I've started up a YouTube channel. And by soon, I mean maybe within the next 12 months. Okay. So, and also you get the links to the companion playlists. It's not only on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, and the companion playlist is being built on YouTube, which is predominantly why I did the YouTube channel. Because I know not everyone likes to listen or pay for streaming services. So it's accessible via YouTube just for free, if you can put up with being told every 15 minutes that you need to buy this set of spices or this life insurance, or in my case, it's predominantly middle-aged women advocating some weird holistic medicine to lose weight and just feel better about life in general. Which, if it worked, which I doubt most of them do, I'd be buying into it, but I don't. Anyway, so we moved platforms. We did our last recording on Discord, and we didn't get the joy of Craig, the recording bot, this time, who's a cute little bear. And I was trying to investigate whether I could put an emoji like dancing across the window in Google Meet. But I gave up. That's why the cat turned his back on me, because I was just like, F you, Google Meet. You won't let me do anything that I want to do, and it's not fair. Anyway, we moved to Google Meet because I've got some files to share, because I've got an update. The introduction to this podcast, believe it or not, it gets a bit dark later on, but I've got a Moomin update. So if you listen to the first episode, you'll remember that I was talking about a French band that I really liked, who I'm not going to pronounce again because I can't pronounce it. And their track Salut d'amour. We like that. We like saying that. I like saying that, definitely. You see, you do it better than me. You've got that kind of raspy. It's like that. Yeah, that's what
I'll tell you why.
That's what the French do. They go. Right. Okay. Sorry.
I was taking lessons. It's called Language City, and it's this French guy in California, and he's like, the best way to learn is to make fun of the French, and I'm like, I got that.
Should we delve into that more, or should we
No.
just sidestep it? Okay.
No, we're good.
I think I've already offended any French who are already listening by going. But that is kind of what they do. It sounds better when you go. And how there was a synth loop in it that I decided sounded like a Moomin, or what I thought a Moomin should sound like. Now the Moomins are a Finnish cartoon creature. And then I Googled them and YouTubed them, and I came up with lots of American cartoons of the Moomins where they were all speaking American, and none of them, not Snufkin, not the Moomins, not anyone was making this sound. However, I have found the Moomin sound that I am talking about.
Wait, are you going to play it for me, like right now, or do I have to wait until the sound goes out?
No. I'm going to, well, there might be a delay where I swear at the tech again, where I try to get it to play. But I've got it. I've got the sound clip. Now, the disclaimer is that this sound clip is from the Moomins are talking Japanese, but I want you all to forget about that. It doesn't matter that the Moomins are talking Japanese. This is the sound that I'm talking about. So apparently I need to present. Am I already presenting? Oh, no, I've just said hi. I just waved my hand. I don't want to do that. I want to present. How do I present? Present now. There we go. So here's the files. We won't be putting this out on video because I don't want everyone seeing the stupid picture of me as a baby with a big hat on. Also, what's in my Google Drive. It's all legal though. So this is the Moomin file. So just bear with me, guys, whilst I set this playing. Is it playing? Why is it not playing?
It's thinking about it, for sure.
Oh. This is the Japanese bit.
Yeah, Moomin.
Konnichiwa, Snufkin.
There was a bit of a build-up. Listen to that, okay? Right, I've stopped it. Remember that end bit. There was a lot of unnecessary kind of what sounds like an alien abduction going on there. I don't know. I didn't watch the actual clip. Listen to this on the track. No, that's the Moomins again. Right, that's the Moomins again. Let me get the right track. Here we go. Is it going to play?
Thinking about it.
No.
Definitely Moomin.
It sounds like a Moomin.
Definitely Moomin in there.
Do you know how many air punches I did when I found that clip on YouTube? Got it! I've got the bit that sounds like a Moomin. So that was the Moomin update. I did threaten during a production prep meeting for this that I was just going to do the Moomin clip and then do a mic drop and leave. But apparently I don't think I can. So we talked about in the first episode how this is, it was a project that was going to be a book where people share their stories about how music helped them get through a particularly dark and challenging time. And I was going to kick things off with my particular story. I also set this up by saying, please do not expect me to say, I listened to a concerto and it changed my life. There's some really great Bulgarian women's state voice choir music that I really love. It's not that. That didn't change my life and help me through a really tough time either. So if you're disappointed at the point where I tell you what helped save my life, turn off. I don't really care. It's important for me to be able to say thanks and express gratitude about this. I thought about how I tried to say this, how much detail I go into, although I'm very open about my mental health. This isn't something that I really talk about all the time and recount in such detail. I guess also I'm slightly reluctant because in the past when I've opened up about it, on one particular infamous occasion when I was in the fledgling start of a relationship, and I assumed wrongly that I could trust the person with my feelings and my emotions, I had opened up about this particular period of my life and disclosed how I'd felt. You know, it was hard. It was hard. You know, I was making plans to end my life, and I will go into this in a short while. You know, that person turned around and called me a fucking moron. So Becky's eyes are like, we've already touched upon that in the past privately. So I am open about my mental health, but obviously experiences like that can serve sometimes to set that sort of progressive attitude and that openness back. So I was quite concerned and apprehensive coming into this recording about talking about it and whether I would get upset, if it's okay to get upset. I read an article lately, which I meant to delve into a bit deeper and reference, but it was on a BBC podcast, a BBC Focus here in the UK, about how lots of social media content creators are playing the sympathy card at the moment. You know, everyone's bursting into tears all the time to try and get, like, it's like clickbait almost. And I read it kind of like clenching everything, going, yeah, well, okay. And all of a sudden I was thinking, I don't want to tell my story anymore because I felt like the spotlight was being shone on me. And I think if you're telling your genuine and bearing your soul and it's genuine and authentic, then that's fine. I'm not going to comment on creators who may be being more theatrical about things, I guess. So I'm just going to tell my story. I am a super empath. I absorb people's emotions, people's energies, people's moods really acutely on a very sort of deep and personal basis. I'm no stranger to situational depression. I've had that in the past. As a super empath, I'm quite sensitive, so things tend to affect me, whether it's things happening to me or things happening to others. So I've had situational depressions. I wasn't fazed by feeling down or feeling low, or, you know, in a kind of mild sense, or even a mild to moderate sense. I've always been able to combat that, maybe through exercise or just, you know, diverting myself. What I'm trying to set up is that I'd never really experienced anything more challenging than that. And then in 2017, I'd had a lovely summer. I'd gone to Sweden, I'd gone to Denmark, I'd had an odyssey over the summer holidays. I was working in teaching, so I had quite a lot of time off, obviously, over the summer holidays. Gone back to work. I was feeling great. I was feeling fine. And then one day, I just remember being in work, and all of a sudden it was like someone, like a little vodka truck, had just picked me up and put me in a fishbowl. And I was on the inside of this fishbowl looking out, and everything was distorted, like being in a fairground with like hall of mirrors, like type thing. Everything just seemed to go away from me. This is the start of the disassociation, I guess. I thought I had a migraine. I thought I had vertigo. I thought it's just the stress of being back at work. I was working in teaching. I was working with SEN kids. It was quite stressful. The migraine, the vertigo that I perceived it to be, didn't go away. And this went on for 2 or 3 weeks until I was like incapable of getting the bus home from work, because the bus was coming, but the bus was in a different dimension to me because I was disassociating that much. And in the end, I had to decide that I needed to go and see my doctor. So it was the community doctor. Over here, we call them GPs. And I'd kind of kept it all inside. I got into my GP's office and I was lucky. I saw a really lovely lady. Sometimes you're not so lucky. Sometimes it's a lottery, and I appreciate that. I've been part of that lottery before, but I was lucky on this occasion. I got to see a really empathetic, sympathetic practitioner who sat and listened to me and sat and watched me as I literally just fell off the chair in her room onto the floor in a puddle of tears, hysteria, crying, talking incoherently. I can't even remember what I said or what I did during that session. She immediately signed me off work. I've got rid of my pen now because I'm getting agitated talking about it. She immediately signed me off work and said, I'm referring you to the the crisis mental health team for your area. This is when they existed. They've now been it's now all been centralized, so these teams don't even really exist anymore like they did. If I had this experience now, I don't know what would happen to me. It's actually pretty scary to think about that. But I was referred to this crisis team. I was immediately put under their care. I was put on meds I was signed off work. I was put on meds. The meds didn't agree with me. I got worse. So then I was put on different meds, but they would take some time to start working. I didn't know what was going on with me. I saw a psychiatrist and he said, you're having a major depression. It's just a major common garden depression, which I was like, at the time, remember feeling a bit affronted by, like, you don't know what's going on in my head. You can't call it common garden. This is not common. And I guess a lot of people statistically will experience a really major clinical depression at some point. But for me, that was quite like, what do you mean? It's just a common garden major clinical depression. I was furious. I was so angry. I couldn't sleep. But all I wanted to do was sleep. And sometimes I wanted to sleep and just never wake up. But I was scared to go to sleep because if I went to sleep, I was scared I might die. Didn't know why all this was happening. There was like two sort of sides of me, like pulling at each other. I had my first ever panic attack, anxiety attack. I'd never experienced anxiety on a clinical level before. I remember being sat in A&E, crying, screaming, clinging onto the wall because I felt like I had a brain tumor. I couldn't conceive that what was happening to me and what I was feeling physically was not some debilitating, severe, terminal kind of condition, illness, disease. They took me to the side, they examined me. You're just having an anxiety attack, go home. I was like, it's not just an anxiety attack. It can't be. How can this just be anxiety? How can this just be depression? This went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. I had friends, family who were incredibly supportive, who would come round, who would sit with me, who would, sometimes I felt like I was floating around in the room that I was in because I was just so, you can probably, as a psychotherapist, explain the actual physiology, the clinical kind of what's going on there. But they would sit and they would just hold me or touch me, I guess, to ground me. And I was offered drugs. I was offered marijuana by some friends because they were like all having conversations among themselves going, if it works and it helps stop her feeling like this, then it's worth it, isn't it? In the short term, I wouldn't have done it. But that's, those were the kind of conversations my friends and my family were having. I found running helped by accident because one day at 2 a.m., one morning at 2 a.m., I was so furious with the fact that I couldn't sleep. I felt like I was constantly levitating off the bed. I wanted to die, but I didn't want to die. Again, that anger, that furiousness. I actually left my house and I just went, and this was, it was autumn, so it wasn't overly warm in England, but I just went running around like the small estate where I lived at 2 a.m., which if anyone had been looking out their window, that would have looked insane. I'd have probably, they'd have been calling the police going, there's a weird person running in a hoodie around the estate at 2 a.m. But I found out after that at least temporarily at that point, running alleviated the physical symptoms of the anxiety and the depression. And for like 10 minutes, I could come and sit back down in my living room and I'd be like, I feel okay, but then it would get a grip again. And this went on for weeks. It absolutely went on for weeks. And every single week that I was experiencing this, given that I had not young children, one was single digits but older, and then I had like a teenager, mid-teens. But I was a single parent ostensibly. They were still in the house. Obviously, I was worried about them. I was worried about the effect it was having on them. There were other comments being made about how negative this was for them and how I should just pull myself together. None of that helped. Obviously, none of that helped. I didn't want to feel like that. And the crux of it was that I started every week saying to myself, if I don't get better by Sunday, I'm going to shove a load of pills down me with a bottle of vodka and just drift away. And that went on for weeks. And I never did it. I didn't actually want to do it. And it's very hard to explain and articulate that you have this, because it was something beyond passive suicidal ideation. I'd made plans, but I didn't want to believe that I would ever act on it or that I would need to act on it. But it kind of served as a comfort blanket. So I had this get out clause there if I didn't start to feel better, because I just was like, I can't live the rest of my life feeling like this, because it was terrifying. It was horrifying. I didn't really know what was happening to me. It was a complete and utter breakdown. And I'm not crying so far, so that's good. So yeah, each week was it was another cycle. I got past that Sunday and nothing happened. Let's see if we can get past another Sunday and nothing happens. And I'd be talking to people, they'd be giving me their experience. I was, there was one person who I spoke to who's just like, sit down, watch something that you know you really like, concentrate it, take in every single detail. But even that didn't work. I was still really angry, furious, agitated, just wanting to jump up and scream or go for a run or something like that all the time. And, by this time, like maybe 5 or 6 weeks has passed. My eldest daughter, to cut a long story short, through the intensive talking therapy that I had, this was traced back to the year before I'd had septicemia and I'd been really, really ill in hospital out of nowhere. First time and the last time so far that I've ever been seriously ill and hospitalized. And we traced this depression back to that. I had really bad health anxiety, which is probably maybe where the thinking I had a brain tumor, thinking this, thinking that, thinking I was going to die. Because actually, when I was in hospital in 2016, I was in intensive care for 24 hours. Like, it was touch and go for a while. So, because I wasn't responding to the antibiotics. And it wasn't like I'd been a sickly person beforehand. I was perfectly healthy. This just had come out of nowhere, just seemingly as the depression had come out of nowhere almost a year later. So probably delayed PTSD. A therapist has suggested that in the past, whatever. But anyway, I'm working through this process, and it's taking time and I'm getting frustrated. It took weeks and weeks and weeks before I felt like I didn't have to rely on or fall back on the thought that I could just end it all. That was the base way that I felt about it. If it gets too worse than this, I'll just end it all. That was the basic way that I was looking at it. So my eldest daughter had developed a fanship and affinity for K-pop, Korean pop, in 2015, 2016. And over time, I would hear bits of it emanating from other areas in the house. I would pass through rooms, the videos would be on the TV, but I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't take any much notice of it. And then at some point during this time that I was having, it wasn't right at the start, because if it had been right at the start, I'd have been like screaming. I would have gone Godzilla, like, why are you trying to fucking play me K-pop? Can't you see the state of me? Blah, 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 blah. I'd like to think that I wouldn't have done that, but I probably would have done, because I was angry at everything. I couldn't control my emotions. But she kept nagging me. I think because she was at home a lot during the day, and I was obviously at home because I'd been signed off work. Mum, just watch this video. Just watch this video. Just listen to this song and watch this video. I'd be like, I don't really want to. I've kind of heard it and I don't really like it. And this. Anyway, she eventually got me to sit down and watch this music video by this artist, these K-pop artists, this band called BTS. Now, BTS now are quite big. BTS stands for Bangtan Sonyeondan. Anyway, something along the lines of Boy Scouts, the translation is. Anyway, I didn't know anything about them, only the bits and snippets I've heard over time. They're now pretty much global. I think a lot of people have heard of BTS, especially if you've got teenagers, especially if you've got girl teenagers. They might like K-pop artists, including BTS. But, 2017, they'd not really, they were only just starting to sort of trickle into the Western world. So I watched this video and it's insane. There's so much imagery and so much thematics in it. Like the artistry, now that I've come to understand and recognize, that runs sort of coherently throughout their albums from start to sort of present day. Most of them are in the military at the moment because as a Korean man, you have to do mandatory military service. So at the moment, they're sort of in a period of like pause whilst the various members are doing their military service. But there's a theme that runs through most of the Korean language albums anyway. They did some English language stuff during the pandemic, which I will just say nothing about, because some of it I'm not like as invested in that as I was about maybe the original Korean language work that they did. But yeah, there's a theme to it. Blood, Sweat and Tears. It's about persevering and accepting. And I didn't know this at the time. I didn't understand a bit of Korean at the time. In fact, I thought one of the lines in it that is actually Korean, it's Hangul. I thought they were singing money, money, money. And I kept saying, why are they singing money, money, money? What does it mean? What does this song mean? And eldest child would be like, no, it's a Korean word and stuff like that. Then she'd be asking me, who is my bias? Like, I'm sorry, what? What does that even mean? Apparently, this is a youth term for who do you prefer? Who do you like? Who do you ship? They used to say that a lot. Who do you ship? What do you mean, who do I ship? I'm not shipping anyone. I'm not DHL. What are you talking about? So, she'd be asking me this. So I'm like, I don't know, because this video, the cuts are kind of quick, the takes are quick, they're all dressed very elaborately, the styling is pretty epic, as you would expect of K-pop. There's quite a lot of religious iconography in this video for Blood, Sweat and Tears. So in the end, because she was at me going, Mum, just tell me who you like, just tell me who you like. So I picked this member called J-Hope because he was wearing the best jacket. I'll pick him because he's got the best jacket as far as I'm concerned. But from there, from Blood, Sweat and Tears, it went to a track called Pied Piper, which got me up dancing around the kitchen. I couldn't remember the last time I danced. I couldn't remember the last time I felt like dancing and having the energy to dance. Then it went to a track called Run, which was the only thing that had really got me to sit down and capture my attention for like anything more than 2 minutes since this whole thing had started. Then I was delving deeper, obviously, into their whole output. I started engaging with them on being encouraged by my eldest child. They did a lot of reality TV, which is insane. When you look at Korean stars and artists and how they do reality TV, you wouldn't see Coldplay or name a big band at the moment. Idols, I don't know. Who's a big band at the moment? David Guetta. I'm like maybe mainstream. So like Coldplay or Troy Sivan. He's quite big. Charlie XCX. You would see Charlie XCX doing her own reality TV show where she gets given a budget and a flight, a ticket for a flight to a foreign country, and she has to go and explore it by herself. You wouldn't get Charlie XCX did something like that. But this is kind of what BTS were doing, because it's very much in the Korean sort of oeuvre. This is what not actors, singers, bands kind of do. So they had this series called Bon Voyage. They had 4 seasons of it where they would be given travel money and they would be given a ticket and they would fly to a foreign country. They went to Malta, they went to Finland. Did they go to Finland? They went to Norway. They went to this small town in Norway called Bergen and spent a week there, where they had adventures and had to survive with foreign language and stuff like that. They had a variety show of their own called Run BTS, where they did challenges of all sorts. I mean, there's like 6 seasons, and the seasons are like 50 episodes long. They're all on YouTube anyway. Those were the only things that got me to sit on my sofa and not feel like I wanted to die, which is, that's a really long way of going about, saying it and trying to describe what this band means to me. But I was so engaged and so engrossed in what they were doing and who they were as people. And the more I learned, because there's such an opposite kind of energy to most of the K-pop artists. Most K-pop artists are managed really heavily, tightly. They're not allowed lives. They're not allowed relationships. They have to be a certain weight. They have to, in Korea, I probably don't have to explain to anyone that Korea is a very conservative East Asian country. Same-sex relationships are taboo. Mental health is taboo. Anything like that, speaking out against the man is taboo. Whereas BTS came along and sort of changed the narrative on that, at least for themselves, which is probably why they've managed to connect with a fan base around the world, not just teenagers, not just like young girls, young boys, but the age sort of range of people who love BTS and are very impassioned about them is vast, from the old to the young, because they managed to just transcend with the way they were, with their artistry, their output. A lot of their songs and their albums about mental health. Most of them have spoken out quite openly and quite in a way that is not typically Korean, and is considered appropriate in the Korean culture, about their own struggles, whether it's with depression, anxiety, burnout, toxic masculinity. One of their rap line, who's the rapper, because they have like a vocal line and a rap line, who's called Min Yoon Gi, but his artist name is Sugar. In 2019, he was saying how he wants to talk about depression more openly, like it is a common cold. And I touched upon this in our production meeting about how people talk about depression and mental health. And even now, sometimes, there is a certain, I had it the other day with a family member when I can laugh about this sort of time of my life now to a certain extent. But even now, that person went, we don't talk about that time, do we? It was why do we not talk about that time? Because it's fine. I'm here and I'm proud of the journey I went on and the strength it took me to kind of recover and carry on recovering, because mental health is a bumpy road. Sometimes it's a few steps forward, sometimes it's a few steps back. So what Sugar said, the member of BTS, that, we talk about it like it's a common cold, it becomes more and more accepted as if it's a common disorder. And he really thinks that more artists and celebrities who clearly probably do have challenges along these lines, should be more open about it, should talk about it openly in the public forum, so it can be made more accessible, more common, less uncomfortable for people. Lots of their albums have the theme of mental health, of challenges. They are ambassadors for UNICEF. They've given speeches at the UN General Assembly about their own struggles and reminding us all of the human experience that binds us all. And for me, having that artist connect with me in such a way, I don't listen to everything they do. Like I say, the English language tracks that they probably put out towards the end of the pandemic, I know why they did them and I know why they put them out, and I appreciate the sentiment behind it. But for me, they didn't connect with me as much as maybe their more original earlier material does, which is even if you listen to the Korean language songs, you can go and Google the lyrics and you can understand what the meaning is. And as I've said, the music videos have themes in them. And whilst I can't say that BTS and these particular tracks outright saved my life, because it was a team effort. There was the clinicians, there was friends, there was family, there was my own efforts. I think they helped me get to a stage of recovery much earlier than I would have done if that material had not come along when it did, if that makes sense. You know, and I could talk at length about BTS. I wanted to keep this segment quite short. When I write the book, I'm going to probably write more about BTS and how they are not just a frivolous K-pop band. There's a lot more deeper sort of meaning and the connection that they have with their fanship. But they really came along just at the right time for me and did a hell of a lot of the legwork in helping me way down the road to recovery far sooner than I had have been. And for that, you know, I'll be forever grateful. There's not, you know, if there's a time when I ever think I'm down, what's the point? I have them quite a lot, mainly because I watch crappy videos on YouTube about the end of the world and things like that. I don't know why YouTube thinks I want to watch that, but then I'll have my existential panic attack. I will probably go and listen to Run by BTS because it's a song that I forever associate with having lifted me up at a time when I was deep in a very deep, dark place. And I won't be the only fan of theirs around the world that has a story like this. I won't be the last fan of theirs around the world that has a story like this. But for me, it's important to have talked about it, I guess, in a public way. And I will write about it more. And I will add the songs to the collaborative playlist. Well, so Becky, why did I feel like I was floating 10 meters above my sofa when I was really suicidally depressed?
You said it yourself. You got it straight. It's total disassociation. We have assessments that we do for EMDR. It starts with the DES and it starts with disassociation. I mean, disassociation, there's so much negativity and negative conception when people are talking about disassociating, but in the EMDR world, it's considered the superhero. It keeps your brain from turning into mush. You know, it's the superhero of the brain. And, you know, you were at a breaking point, and that is why you were disassociating.
But it felt so horrible. That's the irony of it. The brain is doing that to protect you. But I literally, it was, oh God, I could have smashed myself head into a window just to stop the pain of that moment.
I think the most thing that really stuck out from everything that you said, I mean, there's plenty of aspects that I could choose from, but the one in particular, and this one I hear a lot, the fact that you were ready to give up and that you're like, okay, if this is a crappy day, this is the day that I do it. And I hear this a lot, that they're like, I've heard other patients say, all right, if today's the day that I don't laugh, I'm coming home and I'm going to end everything. And it's so shocking to hear that it's the importance again of unity and community and being kind to others, because you never know where somebody is in their mind at that moment that they could easily be in that position. And I hope that the listeners, like, I hope that they can feel this, and then I hope that they can also like have empathy and sympathy for others, especially. I can't believe I'm going to talk about it again, but it's here. The climate that our world is in right now. That the only way that we're going to push through this is loving each other and wanting what's best for each other, because it is not there right now. So it's so alarming that you were in that position, and I had no idea.
Well, I didn't publicize it at the start of the time. You know, I was too busy running around the block at 3 a.m.
You know what? You mentioned that, and I did not have this put into our script, so this is totally unscripted.
Well, I'll allow it. Go. It's fine.
I was in a really terrible accident when I was like 18, 19, something like that, where I had hit a horse that was on the road, and it almost ended my life. And I wasn't I had no idea about this. Like, I didn't realize how close it came until I was talking to the police officer that was there.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that moment where you were in the ICU, we call it ICU here, but the moment that you were facing death and that moment that I had faced death, I ended up with hives really bad. I had insomnia really bad. They tried to med me up. I took these meds for like 2 days that turned me into a zombie. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And you know what helped? I went walking around my little town at midnight, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You find so much pleasure in the night. I don't know what it is about just being alone in your thoughts and the movement. And it was healing. I healed myself that way. So,
yeah. I mean, it was one of the things that definitely helped. I think I did have this like hyper kind of consciousness, I think, after the fact that what if any of my neighbors would have seen me running around at 3 a.m.?
Okay, Izzy, I have a question. When you were running, did you have music with you? Because when I walked, I had music with me.
No, I didn't have music. It wasn't like that. The first time I did it, I literally just, the actual first time that I ran, it was quite early on in the depression and in the feeling bad. It was when there were people in the house trying to help me and try and calm me down. Other adults, I guess. And I won't reference who they were because their privacy can be protected. That's fine. But I think it was like 1 a.m. and I was just so fucking angry. So angry. I was sick of feeling like it. And I think, you know what? It would have been either I don't know if I want to say this. I think I think if I had have not exited the house very quickly and gone running, and I only broke into running because I don't run. I'm not a natural runner. In high school, trying to get me to run, I'd have been lolloping behind everyone else around the track, going, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I can walk for miles. I can hike and walk for miles, but I could never run. Just don't have that. I have very weak ankles. I'm a typical Aquarius. So running isn't good for my ankles. So I didn't explicitly leave the house with the intention of running. I was just angry and I needed to get outside, because if I had not have got outside, and I think this is probably something I never even said in therapy at the time, and I might actually be saying this for the first time, but that's fine. This is a safe space. I think if I'd have not run out of the house at that point, I would have took a knife and just plunged it into me. That's how desperate I felt. But I didn't. I exited the house. I don't think anyone else in the house knew what the fuck was going on, but it was just like, typically in the terms of my social circle, my extended family, my close friends, when I actually returned from my run, they were all just sitting there watching TV. Like, no one had actually bothered. Everyone had remained quite calm, which I think was the best thing, because if people had followed me out haranguing me, that would have added to my sort of feeling unhinged at that time. So it's quite comical to have like run out, and I walked out of the house and then I just started running because I was so angry. I was crying, there was snot all over my face. I wasn't even in trainers. I think I was in a pair of boots and my pajama bottoms. Oh my God. Just the absolute imagery of this right now coming back to me is excruciating. But I mean, it was, it was like 1 a.m. And I just broke into the run because I was so angry and so upset and furious. And I don't even know. I can't even articulate why I broke into the run, but I just started running, and I ran probably for about a minute before, my inability to run kicked in. And I stopped, and I remember stopping and thinking, my heart isn't racing. My head isn't screaming at me. What is going on? Because obviously all that cortisol, all that adrenaline had been like burnt off within the 60 seconds of running. It came back within a half an hour of being back inside, but that's how I discovered running. And it's similar for the BTS thing. The BTS thing gave me a community to feel like I was part of that saved me. So the running saved me. The people around me saved me, and the music of BTS and the whole kind of output of BTS saved me. It was like a threefold thing. Oh, fourfold. Let's not forget the clinicians. Some of them were great. There was a guy who kept coming around and talking to me and telling me to meditate, and I was like, I don't want to meditate. I don't want to meditate. I do not want to cross my legs and get into the lotus position. Right now, I do not want to meditate. And he kept going, it was hard for me to get into it at first. I'm like, I don't want to meditate. Just leave my house. That was the one bit of it that I didn't really gel with in terms of the clinicians who were helping me. But, you know, he meant well, and I don't want to do a disservice to him in terms of his role as part of my like support team. So, yeah, it was a fourfold thing, but the music was massive for me. The first time I heard a piece of music that I just got up and danced around the kitchen to, which was the, you know, Pied Piper track by BTS, was, well, I didn't realize it at the time how big this was, but obviously looking back months on, I could realize the role that it played in, it seems dramatic to say saving my life, but that's what it did. If we're gonna be black and white about it at the end of the day, that is one of the things that saved my life. You know, and I will never not love that band. Even if they put out shit English language singles during the pandemic, I will never not love that band for what a difference they made to my world. And of course, my eldest daughter for introducing me to them. Because sometimes she listens to this podcast when I force her to.
Okay.
Excuses, because obviously she lives out in South Korea. She actually ended up living in South Korea, and I have now visited South Korea, and I've been to, like, you know, sights and sounds associated with BTS. But in 2017, I didn't envisage that that's how our lives would be, that she would be living out in South Korea and I would be going out to visit her. But she blames the time difference for not listening to the podcast.
Well, and you know, that BTS thing, it's interesting because this was the journey that you were supposed to go on.
Yeah, isn't it weird?
To prepare you for your moments in Korea. So, all right, let me go back to the whole, like, why you didn't want to meditate.
Because, okay, we're going there, are we?
Well, totally, and this is unscripted too, so I apologize.
Yeah.
So many people are just like, yeah, let's meditate. But there's, like, in Ayurveda, where meditation comes from, there's a whole sequence, and he kind of skipped that. Like, if you would have gone for a run or did some yoga before he came around, you might have been more
attuned to it.
Right, because the whole point is that you're supposed to exhaust your body. That's why you end yoga with a savasana, because you've exhausted, you've gotten out of your head and focused on poses and exhausted your body to the point where you could get into a headspace that was comfortable. But when you have all of this pent up energy needing to come out, you're not going to sit there. No disrespect for the clinicians, but yeah, there's a process to that. So, yeah, sorry.
I mean, I think the thing with meditation as well at the time was it was silence, and I could hear my own thoughts screaming at me. And I guess music for me, especially the BTS music, because it was new music as well, and it was new music that I was invested in.
And to get you moving?
Yeah, to get me moving as well. That was the thing that was crucial about it. It was noise, but it was noise that I was interested in. It was noise that was connecting with me. It was noise that was resonating with me. And when I, you know, obviously read up about the meaning and their themes and how they, you know, there's members of this band that struggle with their mental health too, then there was that sense of community, that sense of connection. So it's a very multi-layered thing, and it's hard to articulate in what I wanted to be a 20-minute segment of the podcast. So yeah, I'll write about it more in depth, and I'll put the tracks on, and everyone will be like, but this isn't, you know, when you expect to hear about music that's changed someone's life, you know, maybe a Nick Cave track, I don't want to keep referring to classical music, but something very profound. It doesn't feel very profound if I'm just talking about K-pop tracks, but obviously for me, it connected with me in a way that it was. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to go out and love this music. This is my story. Just like anyone else, any guest that we have come on and talk about their experiences, it's going to be their story, you know? Mm-hmm. And if their music is profound, great. If their music is, think of something frivolous, I don't know, take that. One Direction. One Direction saved my life.
Taylor Swift. Sorry, it's huge here. She's huge here.
You know what? I like Taylor Swift. She's fine. I did I talk about this in the first episode? You know, All Too Well, the 10-minute version is my go-to track when I'm feeling angry about a man.
Really?
Well, we all know that track is about her relationship with a certain actor.
I've never heard it.
No?
Or no.
You've never heard it?
About it, no.
Oh my God. Right. Okay. Well, before you start talking about your serious stuff about music therapy, let me just educate you.
Okay.
Right?
I'm open.
Let me try and educate you in a way that's not going to get us sued for defamation of character. So, on Taylor Swift's All Too Well, the 10-minute version is from her like big famous album Red, and the 10-minute version is the extended version, and it is widely thought to be about an actor who she had a relationship with, and she was quite young and he was older than her. I'm not going to say his name, but he was once in a film that had a really great soundtrack. Everything comes back to music, and Sparkle Motion, Big Rabbit, Big Scary Rabbit. No? Plane engine falling from the sky? Wait, I don't want to say it, and I don't want to say his name.
Can you type it? Type it in the chat.
I can't type it in the chat. Where's my pen gone? I'll probably end the meeting if I type it in the chat. It's fine.
Type it in the chat.
No. Oh no, the camera's up there. Oh God.
Can't see it.
Don't say it out loud. Don't say it
okay.
out loud. Do you know
but we're going to post this. You're going to have to blur it all out.
I'm going to put a big sticker over it.
Okay,
you know
I've never watched that, but I've heard of it.
Do you know who was in it?
No.
No, don't say it out loud. Oh my God. Look.
Oh, are you serious?
I'm deadly serious.
I'm going to have to listen to this song now.
I'm deadly serious. So, and there's a video to it in which there's two actors playing the main roles, which I thought to be him and Taylor Swift when she was younger. You've got to watch it on YouTube.
I will.
The internet at the time this video came out was just absolutely vibrating with the theories about all of this, but it wasn't seen to be. How did I even start talking about this? Anyway, so it wasn't seen. It wasn't seen to be a good relationship through Tay Swift's eyes. There was maybe a bit of toxicity there, and All Too Well is like documenting that and the struggles within that relationship,
and maybe some grooming.
Shh. So we're not saying anything about anyone. What we're saying is that Taylor Swift seemed very unhappy with this particular person, and that
it's easy to relate to.
Yeah, and he may have manipulated her quite a bit. So whenever I'm angry about a man being a bit of a douchebag, I will put that on and I will sing it very loud. And there are certain verses that resonate more than others, and I can't even remember them right now. And if I sing All Too Well, will we get sued?
Well,
I mean, people will switch off. That is for certain.
Men, for certain, probably would not be.
Will we get sued? I don't know.
I think we just turned off our male listeners.
Not all men are douchebags.
Definitely not all.
Some men are lovely.
Absolutely.
That's fine. I'm just saying every now and again when
we come across one.
Yeah. When we maybe make a connection with someone who isn't healthy for us, and we come out of that connection and we realize what we do, if you're me, is you put All Too Well on the 10-minute version very loud and you scream it around your house. That's what I'm saying. Okay? But there are many times that I sing songs and remember some men fondly. So that's fine too. Jeez. I can't believe we just spent 5 minutes with me trying to make you guess by writing down names on a piece of paper. And also probably offending the patriarchy. Well, F the patriarchy. That's a line from Auto.
Well, it's high time for that.
It would be up your street. Anyway, from the ridiculous to the actual informative and seriousness, Becky.
Oh, I don't want to say the ridiculous. Your story.
No, my story wasn't ridiculous, but Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The unscripted Taylor Swift segment was ridiculous.
Not that Taylor Swift is ridiculous. Just our discussing in detail are. Okay. I'm not even going to go any further on that. Okay. Let's geek out just for a minute. I apologize. I am going to try very hard not to do the whole Ferris Bueller teacher thing. I'm going to try and keep you guys awake talking about this, but this is important. This is how music theory came to be, because music therapy isn't new. Music therapy has been around for a really long time. Writings and references utilizing music as a therapy, it can be found in the Egyptian culture, as well as within the writings of ancient Greece, with Aristotle, with Plato. And within those writings, music is linked to having healing powers for both the body and the mind. So now we get to do a deep dive, because I'm going to make a reference to your discussion of clinical aspects, right, of a Western world, because we are just so far removed on what's healthy and what's not. Okay. So it was during the Ottoman Empire, which built the first treatment center in Edirne, Turkey, using music therapy as a treatment. And it still exists to this day. It's still there. It's called the Sultan Bayezid, I hope I got that right, complex. It was founded in 1488, so it's been around for a really long time. The treatment was, of course, focused on music therapy, suggesting that music could unite both body and the soul. And the makims, which are musical nodes, they were prescriptions. And of the 80 Turkish modes, 12 of them were used therapeutically. Wow. They were meant to heal mental and physical issues by arousing or de-escalating the nervous system. So the consensus is that music therapy in itself can reestablish the upset harmony of a patient by recreating balance between emotions, the body, and the mind. Okay, now I want you... No, I got to go on. So this complex was so magnificent in its structure. It was just huge. The structure was, the main portion of the structure was the courtyard. And this is where patients went. And so they perfected the acoustics of the music that would be played there in the courtyard and the complex to bounce off the fountains so that all the elements could be heard within the patient section. So a patient would be laying in their room, sitting in their room, and they could hear the waters flowing. They could hear this music playing. It's just calm and soothing. So, I want you to think about this. I want you to try to imagine yourself as being a distressed person. And instead of being thrown into an institute like we are here, that with dignity, you were taken to a tranquil place in the middle of a vineyard. that it has domes and arcs, and there's roses and trees and the sight of a beautiful fountain, and you could hear music in the background, and everything is so healing and soothing and so organic. And this is what every soul really needs. It requires rest, relaxation, and pleasantries. I mean, think about it. Think about if you were placed into a place like that when you were having your moment. You know, you weren't bound to your responsibilities and, you know, pulling up your big girl panties and going about your day. I mean, here, I can only speak for the US, that when people are distressed here in the US, you're going to be met with a concrete metropolis. You're going to be up on the 4th floor. You're going to be institutionalized with slamming doors and poking nurses coming in and flashing you with a flashlight every 14 minutes to make sure that you're okay. And they're going to sedate you for several days. And then they're going to throw you back out into the environment which put you at that state of mind in the first place. It just baffles me. So anyways, the Ottoman Empire, they discovered, well, actually, it wasn't even the Ottoman Empire. They just decided to make a treatment center after all of this knowledge that they had from Aristotle and from the Egyptians, that musically speaking, there is a proven science that has been known for thousands of years that continues to reiterate its importance, that music can help your mental health. So I'm just going to kind of end with these 2 quotes about that. There seems to be in us a sort of affinity to musical notes and rhythms, which ensures that we are affected in a certain manner. And then the second one is music directly represents the passions of the soul. If one listens to the wrong kind of music, he will become the wrong kind of person. Both of those are from Aristotle. So, I mean, we have to be mindful about what we listen to, but I mean, we need to do a whole segment on that in the future, like being mindful about what you're listening to. But I mean, you know, you brought up so much, and people don't realize that, okay, going back to EMDR world, we believe that the brain tries to heal itself. And a lot of people don't know how to heal themselves. Honestly, music is it. There's, you know, major keys and minor keys and like all the rhythms and the type of music. And I mean, the Ottomans really worked on the types of music that they were going to use to like de-escalate somebody or to escalate them because it was therapeutic. So it's just, and the fact that you could still go there. And in fact, I think this should be like recommended that if somebody is having distresses, you know what? Go find yourself. Go to Turkey. Maybe that's like the best thing for you right now.
But a shot of Thorazine in the thigh is cheaper than a flight to Turkey, right?
Right.
I mean, I say that because having witnessed in the 70s a female relative having the treatment, as you said, was quite clinical, quite barbaric. You know, I witnessed a female relative having a shot of Thorazine in the thigh, being bundled into the back of an ambulance. Quite, you know,
dramatic, mishandled.
I can't say for sure if that person had been put in this kind of environment with soothing music and natural elements of the natural world to look at and focus on, whether it would have made a difference, because obviously we'll never know. But surely it has to be a better solution than the shot of Thorazine in the thigh, or the being put in a padded room. Or, I mean, I guess I was lucky with the treatment that I got. I guess I was lucky, and I say lucky, and I do the quotation marks, with the fact that I got ill when I got ill, you know, that it wasn't in the 70s, it wasn't in the 80s, when the treatment of how I was feeling could have been so very different. And it was before the decimation of the mental health services in this country, which I could go on about at length, but this isn't a political podcast, so I'm not going to do that. And I guess in some way, me finding that music that I connected with, the music of BTS, was me creating my own little Turkish sort of sensory room with the music, that comforted me and that uplifted me and didn't bring me down. Because you're absolutely right as well about, obviously, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, one of the things that I've been interested in, and I'm trying to secure an interview with someone who is very knowledgeable about this, is the effect of major and minor keys and music in major and minor keys. And I did a little dive into it recently where I was working out the keys of a lot of songs that I know for sure make me happy. And interestingly enough, then most of the songs that lift me up are like in D major. And just before we started recording, I listened to the BTS songs and worked out the keys. And Run, especially the track Run, it's a combination of D major, B major, and a little bit of F minor. But we'll forget about the F minor, that's fine. So again, there's the major chords in there that seem to resonate with me in terms of uplifting my mood. Next week, I'm going to listen to some Radiohead tracks that really depress me, and I wonder if they'll all be in minor key.
Oh, that'll be great for us talking about, like, what about being mindful with the music that influences you? Oh, that's going to be so
Joy
fire.
Division. Joy Division, Transmission in particular is a song that really, I love it. It's exquisite, but
it brings you down a notch.
Gosh, yeah, it brings me down. So I imagine that's definitely a minor key. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. So yeah, we're going to delve into that a little bit in the future. I really want to say, if you're interested in how major versus minor key can really change a song. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you really like music, you might already know about this, but on the off chance, what have I done with my hair? I look like a scarecrow. What the F is going on there? Oh my God.
It's totally punk.
It's totally punk.
Goes along with the whole Joy Division thing. Mine is too.
It's very Manchester in late 80s.
Mine's going.
There's been no conditioner past my locks in the last 2 days, you can tell. This isn't a beauty podcast. Sorry for the diversion.
No Kardashians here, sorry.
No, there's no Kardashians here. If there were, I'd be slamming doors. Get out. Get out of my podcast. I'm sure the Kardashians have value. Do they? I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to say it. Yes, they do. They do. I will tell you later when we are not going to get sued.
My eldest daughter watches them. That's fine. Whatever. Like, I don't hate them. It's just,
I don't hate them.
I don't understand it. I don't get it. There you go. I don't get it. Okay. But I'm sure they have relevance. They have relevance for my eldest daughter, so that's fine. Don't sue me. Okay, let's carry on. So if you want to really understand the difference between how major and minor key can really change something, and this is one of the strongest examples that I've heard in a long time on this. You might already know of this, but and you might have already heard these two tracks, whether or not you've clicked onto the fact that they are the same track but in different keys. I don't know. If you're a muso, you probably know this. But Arctic Monkeys, who I love, have a track called Do I Want to Know, which I kind of want to start singing. Again, I'm not sure if we'll get sued. I don't want to piss Alex Turner off. I quite like him, so I won't do it. But I love Do I Want to Know. It's like Alex Turner is raw sexual energy, right? And Do I Want to Know is his theme tune. This is what I said the other day. I stood up in the middle of my living room and I announced this like I was giving some kind of like TED talk, honestly. Because I'd been listening to this cover of Do I Want to Know by the artist Hosier. Anyway, who I don't mind. I quite like Hosier. Well, I think he's Irish, so I don't think you can say it like that. Well, yeah, I suppose you can if you're French. I don't know. Well, I don't think in Ireland. I don't think he says his name like that. I'm sure he's Irish. Anyway, he's done. We always end up talking about the French stuff because at the end of this, for God's sake, I've got some more French stuff.
Me too.
People in France are going to think we're just really weirdly obsessed. I do like a good croissant. I will say that. The thing is, let me get this anecdote about this version of this song. So the Arctic Monkeys original "Do I Want to Know" is in minor key, right? Listen to Hosier's reworking of it. It's in the major key, and it sounds like a completely different song. And I didn't get angry, but I got quite agitated because people were like, well, you like Hosier, so why don't you like this? And it's like, it's not that I don't like it, it's just I can't accept it. It sounds wrong to me. And that's when I stood up and did my whole TED talk about Alex Turner and his raw sexual energy. So if you want an illustration, a really good, strong illustration of how something in a major key differs, how it makes you feel to something in a minor key, then listen to Hosier's cover of "Do I Want to Know" by the Arctic Monkeys, and then go and listen to the Arctic Monkeys cover, which is in the minor key, and maybe you'll get a kind of feel for what we're trying to illustrate, or what I'm trying to say there. So I'm going to stop on that now, because I'll start talking about Alex Turner's raw sexual energy again, and this isn't that kind of podcast. So let's talk.
I don't know. I'm going to interject. The beginning of the Moomin was kind of sus.
The beginning of the Moomin was kind of sus. What do you mean?
The beginning of the Moomin sound clip was kind of, I was like, where are we going? What?
It was because it was Japanese, so that's why. I think everything probably sounds slightly sexual in Japanese. Deviant, yeah, pornographic. No, I love Japan. Let's not say this. I'm not going to be able to go to the Studio Ghibli Museum. For fuck's sake. Right, stop right now, honestly. If honestly, I have no money. I can't get sued for money, but I feel like I'm just going to be bankrupt by the end of this podcast. I'm going to have to stop it because I'm just going to get myself in legal trouble. Now I've offended the whole of Japan. There's no one in Japan listening on the analytics, so it's fine.
There we go. Unless they're using a VPN.
And they're in Kazakhstan. Yeah. Okay. I can't remember what we're saying now, because we accused the whole of Japan of being deviant.
The Moomins of all things.
Via the Moomins, the most innocent things in the world. So let's talk about, let's quickly change the tone. Let's talk about
songs of January that saved us.
Yeah, let's talk about songs of January that saved us, because January was pretty cruddy. It lasted for like 3 million years, and there's been a lot of things around the world that have not been good.
Yeah.
Understatement of the century.
Yeah.
So I'll get started. I've been listening to a band called English Teacher. They won the Mercury Music Prize in the UK. It's one of our award things. I don't know if there's like a kind of equal thing in America or anything like that. It's just one singular prize for sort of new artists, I think. That they're voted by their peers, the best album of the year, whatever. Anyway, English Teacher's album kind of won the Mercury Music Prize last year. And in true Izzy fashion, it took me ages to get into English Teacher, even though they're played on the radio station all the time that I listen to all the time, BBC Six Music. I did that kind of thing, like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to them. I'll listen to them when I'm goddamn good and ready. Thanks. Yes. Streaming platform, you can keep pushing them at me, but I'll listen to them when I'm goddamn good and ready. And anyway, I finally ended up listening to them. I watched their YouTube session for, is it KEXP? It's KEXP in Seattle. I'm sure it is. They have a YouTube channel and they have lots of bands playing and doing live sessions and stuff like that.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think Mortiva played on that before.
I'm sure it's
and
KEXP.
Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So they did a session, and that's where I heard this track called You Blister My Paint. And I've been going through some things emotionally when it comes to matters of the heart, as you well know. So I've been up and I've been down and I've been down and then I've been up again. I mean, the one point I haven't got to is blasting out All Too Well by Taylor Swift and screaming it at the top of my lungs. Touch wood. I think I seem to have avoided that this time, which is a good thing. But this kind of song, You Blister My Pain, is so heartbreaking. It's so exquisitely heartbreaking. When she's singing it, you can hear the pain, the angst in her voice. But it's so beautiful that even though it's quite a sad song, probably in a minor key, I haven't worked that out yet. I feel for me, it's like it's wrapping me in a big, warm and safe musical hug because it's so beautiful, even though it's actually the material is quite sad and quite angsty sounding. So if you haven't heard that and if you haven't explored English Teacher, at least go and listen to that track because it also, I will say, that there may be some Moomin sounds involved in that track. That's not why I like it, but I was just thinking they're quite cool English Teacher. They use a lot of sampling and you know, they're kind of like a theremin type outfit.
Oh, love that. Yes.
There are some weird samples that sound like Moomins on that track. So, and then the other one, and it's a late entry. It's a very late entry. It's almost we were almost across the finish line when this one entered the fray. So Nina Simone, who I obviously love, you know.
Yes, of course.
Granddad was big into Nina Simone. You know, she took up quite a big part of his record collection. We talked about swapsies with my granddad. You know, I would play him pop songs as a kid, and he would play me classical music, jazz, blues, whatever. So I heard a lot of Nina Simone growing up. Anyway, there's a track called You Have Got to Learn that she sings live. It's on an album of her live show. I think it's at Newport Jazz Festival. And I heard it on the radio a while ago. And I was like, I need to listen to that. I need to download that album and listen to it. So I listened to it. And again, this one track really stood out for me. And would you believe it? This is a cover of a French song, Français. It was originally written and sung by French songman. What do you call a French crooner? Like you might call a French female singer a chanteuse, is it? Something like that? A chanteuse?
There is a word for it. It's
chanteuse,
yeah.
I think it is. I don't know what you call a man. Chanteur? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, he's called Charles Aznavour. He's from the 60s, 50s, 60s. He originally wrote this song. The French title is, and I wrote this down in my handwriting, which I cannot understand. Il faut savoir. Il faut savoir. Again, if you're French, write in and tell me what the hell I'm supposed to be saying here and how I should say it. Il faut savoir. Anyway, English translation is You've Got to Learn. And I was listening to it, and the lyrics are about you have got to learn to leave the table when love is no longer being served.
Yeah.
And the way obviously Nina sings it as well. And I was sat there listening, thinking, whoa, this is a lesson, you know, especially for a try-hard, stubborn ass like me, who sometimes perseveres with things longer than she should for her own self-love and worth.
I think we're all guilty of that from time to time.
Yeah, I was just like thinking, Nina, you're talking to me. You are talking to me, Nina. So you have got to learn to leave that table when the time is right. So those are my two songs that really stood out for me during January. They will go on the collaborative playlist. If you're struggling with boy troubles, please go listen to Nina Simone. It will help. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good choices.
Go for it. Your choices.
Oh, so in the land of, I become one with music on my drive home. It is a 25 to 30 minute drive on back roads with Amish dodging like Frogger. black ice.
Are we going to get sued by the Amish now?
Well, it could, because whether
Wait,
they're allowed to have
they
phones
don't have
or not,
internet.
they do.
Characters, because they don't have.
They do.
They do.
They do everything that they're not supposed to do, but they do it in secrecy.
Well, that wasn't in that film in the 1980s with Harrison Ford. They weren't listening to podcasts.
The next time I'm going to get pulled over by police if they're listening to this. The next time that I pass an Amish buggy with a driver playing on his phone, I'll try to snap a picture of it.
You should, for the good of society. That's really bad.
Right? If he's not allowed to play on his phone or when, yeah, I didn't say that right, but that's okay. But if I'm not allowed to play on my phone while I'm driving, he should not be allowed to play on his phone when he's leading some deadly animals in my direction where I have PTSD about horses on the road. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and he shouldn't be doing that. He should be concentrating on going back to build a barn and do things with grain. We're definitely going to get sued by the Amish.
Anyway, but by the way, I do not have PTSD on the road about the horses. But
I mean, you could. You would be justified.
Totally could.
Yeah.
But I do find it humorous when I see them playing on their phone, and I'm like, haha, yeah. Like, let your community know. But anyways, so I'm driving home. It's middle of the night. It's kind of creepy. I need some stimulation, and so I go for Galati. It's a collaboration between a man and a woman. I cannot remember their names to save my life, but the song is "Un Couture de Soleil." Anyway,
hey, I fell in love with you then.
Right, and it's kind of like it's foreign. It's so far out of there, and it's so out of reach, and yet the only thing that you can reach onto is inside yourself. It's synth, it's dark wave, it's lyrically divine. Oh, I got the lyrics too. Okay. I just love the lyrics. I'm not going to read them in French. I'm not. But in English, it's translated as...
Well, no one in France is listening to this, so it'd be pointless.
It's true, but I did not practice it.
Just read it in English.
I could freeze forever at sunset and enjoy it for an eternity, slowly withering, immerse myself in the cold of the night, but every time a desire takes me, that of dancing and kissing, of the darkness itself. It's so good. It's so good.
It's also so French.
Yeah, it's totally.
They have to get kissing into everything. Honestly. What a life they must lead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, to be
so that's it for this episode. I think this episode, apart from me saying sarcastic things about various nations and religions and probably getting sued, has probably been a little bit of a darker episode than normal, but I hope you found something of value within it in terms of what we've talked about. We again would love to hear from you if you'd like to share your story about a band, a track, etc. that has helped during a time that you have found challenging. The email address is in the show notes. The website address is in the show notes. All our socials are in the show notes. All the links ever for everything, including how to get yourself out of being sued by the Amish, are in the show notes and on the website. I just want to leave you with this one thing, because we talked about January being a bit of a shit show. Obviously, the Oompa Loompa was sworn in. Things have happened and continue to happen as a result of that, to the point where I've just started avoiding the news, which isn't a great place to be in.
Me too.
I'm a bit ashamed of that. I like to keep up with things and be informed, but at the moment, every single thing I read is like a WTF moment, especially coming from your side of the pond. And I worry for my friends and my loved ones over there, obviously. It was a bit of a shit show, but no more what am I saying? I think probably one of the darkest moments for me was learning of the passing of David Lynch. You and I are both big David Lynch fans. You know, I watched Twin Peaks, not that I want to give away my age, but I watched Twin Peaks when it went out live on TV in the early 90s. It was like one of the last sort of event TV things that I can really remember. Had such a huge effect on me. Became a massive Lynch fan from that. You know, I mean, I obviously went to university, did film studies and journalism. So I'd seen Elephant Man during my university years anyway. But, you know, not only was this someone who was a great visual author, but he was also really accomplished in the area of music. He created his own music. He was an intense music fan, like just, you know, such a fanboy of music. You know, he really understood the power of music in terms of soundtracking images on screen. You know, some of the scores that he worked with his longtime collaborator Angelo Badalamenti, I always pronounce that wrong. Sorry, Angelo, because you're probably up in Angelo. For his films and for Twin Peaks, you know, really speak of Lynch's passion for music and its role in accompanying visuals. You know, he built his own studio. He released music of his own. In 2011, he released an Off-Kilter experimental, because what else would it be for David Lynch but Off-Kilter, an experimental sort of blues record called Crazy Clementine. But he also has done collaborations with artists like Danger Mouse and Karen O, you know, which is more mainstream. And obviously Christabel, he worked with closely. So you also know, if you watch Twin Peaks: The Return, he every episode of that ended with the performances of bands at the Roadhouse, you know, and it was everyone from Nine Inch Nails to Lissy, the Chromatics, Sharon Van Etten. The soundtrack for The Return is amazing. I own it on vinyl. If there's one thing you want to do in David Lynch's memory, go and buy that on vinyl, because the artwork of the sleeve is beautiful as well. So he's going to be sorely missed as a presence and a force in this world. I just want to leave you with a quote from Lynch himself about the beauty of music. And remember, even if the skies are grey for you now, down the road, they will be clear and blue.
Music is one of the most fantastic things. Almost like fire and water and air. It's like a thing, and it does so much. It does a thing for the intellect. It does a thing for the emotions, and a certain kind of music can swell the heart till it almost bursts. Tears of happiness flow out of your eyes. You can't believe the beauty that comes. And it comes from these notes